thank you so much to the MediaPost team just for having us and allowing us this time. I think I have been to a couple of these Email Insider Summits, but this is my first time in Deer Valley. And I think, just the early connections, the conversations, it blows everything out of the water, and I think exceeds expectations every time. I'll say, Will, your steamy photo, I replicated that exact moment today as I took my morning soak while my wife was giving me the update of 2 kids out the door, dog barking, so highly get that. Cool. So before we dive in, just a quick intro and a little bit about myself and my background. I'm a principal value consultant at Iterable, and what that really means, my job is to stay on top of trends and what we're seeing in the industry and work with you all to figure out ways that we're driving meaningful value out of the tools and the technology that you invest in, thinking about strategic use cases and ultimately how it matters to your business. And prior to joining Iterable, I actually spent the better part of my career, about 15 years, leading B2C marketing. So I've sat in the shoes of a lot of you, and I actually spent the majority of that time in ski industry. So I was at Vail Resorts for a number of years, and I think learned so much in that time, but I'm so excited to be back here on the slopes and also meeting with a lot of you as we talk about some of the challenges that we face in getting full value out of our technology. So let's dive in. As with any great MarTech presentation, I think always good to start with this image, right? Our friends at Chief MarTech put it out every year and highlight how fast and how rapid the growth is in the tools and the technology that we have available to us as marketers today to provide that right message, right moment, right person, all those things, just really advancing our capabilities. And we talk about AI, and we'll talk about it a ton more throughout this week, but how fast that's rapidly innovating and changing the way in which we do our work. But all that's not super new, right? AI's been around since the early 2010s when we started playing around with machine learning and predictive segmentation and those pieces, and we see wins slowly over time. But as we've gotten into 2024, something feels fundamentally different, right? There is this rapid innovation on the backs of how we're chain linking LLMs and PLMs and SLMs and really starting to charge into the real power and new use cases that we can get out of AI. And so all of that's leading to a major shift that we as marketers and as technologists are having to face. And that's really around the fact that our day-to-day and what we do is going to shift, right? It brings me back to the times of the Industrial Revolution and learning about what did that fundamental impact have on changing the way we live our lives. And in fact, Gartner recently put this out, but 15% of, at minimum, of day-to-day decisioning that we're doing today is expected to be replaced by agentic AI in 2028. That's just 3 years from now. So think about 15% of what we're doing today being replaced and freeing up time, space, and energy to be creative, to rethink the way we approach our business, and really driving business outcomes. And to support that, we're seeing a massive shift in the technology that's being produced, right? What's a $30 billion market today for agentic AI tools is expected to explode to $1.3 trillion in just the next 8 years. All of that leads to changes for us as marketers, right? So we have to imagine a world where today we are in this era of marketing orchestration, right? We're building audiences and campaigns and new journeys to try to capitalize and get our message out. But what about imagining a world where we're not building audiences or worrying about template creation? Instead, we're focused wholly on strategic ideas that are going to drive the outcomes we're looking for in terms of how we engage our customers and how we deliver results. But I could talk a little bit today about what's going on in that space, what we're seeing. There's a lot of great tools, features. There's a lot we're doing at Iterable to advance on how we're supporting these agentic AI solutions. But I want to talk about where we're at today, because it is a challenge, right? We're 3 years in. We have more tools and data at our fingertips than we've ever had before. But it doesn't totally feel like it all the time, right? It's not always easy. There's a lot of complexity that comes with that. And a lot of the conversations that I have with marketing leaders across the globe each week, the conversations are the same. I've invested money in AI, or I'm looking at these new tools, and I just am not yet seeing the full value, the full ROI. My team isn't able to fully adapt these capabilities at the pace at which these are changing. Or I feel like I have redundancies across different tools, and where should I really be investing my time? And like my favorite, when am I done? Like I'm constantly innovating, re-looking at my stack, when am I done? And the answer to these questions is we're never really done, right? Like we're in this optionality era of creating this total crisis of confidence of what tool is right for me and, oh, this just popped up tomorrow and how am I taking advantage of that? And the reality is we've got to constantly be pushing, asking ourselves questions and adapting to the world around us, but assuring that we're checking in, right? There's business implications and costs of doing it the right way. So how do we set a foundation that's going to enable us to recognize the full value of the technology, the full productivity of our teams as they break into this technology and really put it to work? So for us as marketers, this really means that the next few years and ongoing, we have to be agile. So when we talk about future-proofing a technology stack, we've got to move to this era of modern marketing, where you're looking at solutions that are API first, cloud native, that are going to set you up for success to modularly adapt your stack over time and take advantage of this best-in-class features that are coming out. Things are changing all the time. We can't afford a year to re-implement new technology or make those changes. We've got to be able to move quickly and to adapt as the market's adapting. And so there's a couple steps that we've laid out here. It's hard to cover in like just 10 minutes, but a couple steps as you think about it, right? Because it's daunting to think, how am I going to audit my full tech stack? How am I going to redesign this from ground one? But we've tried to boil it down into a few steps. So the first is define your goals. I think this is like important for any initiative you go after, but ultimately, what are the business outcomes that you're looking to drive? And what are the customer experiences that you have to deliver in order to achieve those goals? Next, look at all the capabilities, not tools, not what you have in your stack today, but in order for me to power this experience, what data do I need? What flexibility with my content do I need? How can I get down to that one-to-one view? How do I test and learn? What are all those capabilities that you need so that as you start to build the stack, you make sure you're checking the boxes of who's delivering and how you're delivering that, whether that's internally built solutions or going to the market. The third here is about identifying that central nervous system. So what's going to be the anchor for your stack? The modular era of technology has created a lot of benefits, but there's also an importance of, we've talked about it a few times today, what's that source of truth for you that's going to give consistency not only in where you store your data, but how everyone across your organization accesses, activates, and understands that data. And when you identify that, assure that that has modular flexibility. So again, back to that API first, cloud ecosystem, working with partnerships that are open and flexible to assure you're maximizing full value. And then last, I think most important, especially from a value consultant's heart, is how are you setting KPIs and benchmarks and measuring that return and utilization over time? So you go into conversations, you build your stack, you have ideas of what you want to deliver, but how often are you checking in to assure, are we using the features that we really bought into, and is it delivering the business goals that we projected? And that all comes down to setting KPIs and driving accountability. But that's a lot to go through, and that's a really quick rundown. At Iterable, we've structured a series of complementary workshops, and this is really where my team comes in to help, all the way from starting at strategy. What are you doing today? What are the key campaigns, the key outcomes that you're seeking to drive, and how can we help build that roadmap and translate it into an architecture workshop where we can look at what exists today to drive these experiences, and how does that look tomorrow? And then finally, closing that with our quantified value cases. What are key features and benefits that we project value from, and what's the utilization use cases for that? And what's at the core of a lot of these conversations is what we're seeing successful in the market. So we talked a lot about this today of just what does the new transition of the MarTech stack look like? This is just a quick example that highlights. At the top, it's about that source of truth data, right? This big section in the middle being that central nervous system. But how are we capturing data from all aspects of the organization, not just customer profiles or basic purchase data, but how are we creating that data lake in that modern data warehouse to capture and govern that information? And then second, how are we using a composable layer to move that data around our organization efficiently without those redundant storage costs, without some of the challenges that come with that? We also want to hydrate and enrich the data as we move it into activation platforms and marketing automation opportunities. And that's that third one, the activation layer. So this is really about creating that best-in-class tooling that's going to drive the customer experience that you're looking for with consistency. So from the email we deliver with a special promo to the click-through onto the site, how are they seeing that consistent message meant for them with harmonized consistency? And that's where Iterable plays in. So when we look at this, there's a number of different sources of truth in the market, and we've invested heavily in terms of how do we build that connection, working with High Touch to co-develop our Smart Ingest product, which is all about that composable data ingestion. How are we feeding that data into our activation platform and results back based on the engagement and insights we're seeing with our customers? And when you look beneath the hood at Iterable and our own infrastructure, it is a differentiated architecture to really support you in this journey. So that modern infrastructure starts with our NoSQL database and the Elasticsearch engine that drives it, which is NoSQL. We don't have rigid requirements in terms of how you feed us your data or typical relational database needs, which also allows us to index that data far faster. In Elasticsearch, we're really able to dive in at a deeper level and deliver that real-time capability. And then for dedicated sending queues, we have that noisy neighbor problem of Black Friday, everybody's sending massive campaigns. We leverage Kafka and Pulsar beneath the hood to help us to pulse that send velocity and assure no risks or issues in terms of speed to market on those messages. And then finally, leveraging Kubernetes to help us scale events for unexpected workload to assure, again, that consistency, that speed and velocity of your messages in market. Beyond the technical differentiators, we obviously work with a number of brand leaders as well in the Iterator community. And I think this is one of the biggest things that I enjoy in terms of working with our customers and creating a community where we're sharing constantly. And we, as a vendor, are learning from our customers on what they need, what they're looking for, and continuing to innovate the product to meet those needs. And then beyond that, our world-class partner ecosystem. So it's all about that flexibility. How do we allow you and enable you to capitalize on that best-in-class tooling, keeping these flexible partnerships open and ready to operate with what you're working with today, but also your own homegrown solutions. So keeping that partner ecosystem and that flexibility throughout. So that's it for today on Iterable. I did throw a QR code up here. If you are interested in any of those workshops, feel free to book a scheduled session. We'll walk you through it. And then I know Greg got pointed out earlier, but he is a EIS veteran, year 8, 9, something like that. But feel free to grab Greg and I after, and we'd be happy to chat. Thanks.